ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Nest Talk, the Emory Eagles Podcast. I am Taylor C., the Assistant Director for Athletic Communications, and we are back for our second episode. This is all things Emory Athletics, and today we are here with baseball senior Blake Dincman.
Hey everyone, my name is Blake. I'm a senior on the Emory baseball team. I'm from Tallahassee, Florida, and my position is catcher.
Let's talk a little bit about growing up, your childhood, your background. We want to know all the good information.
Yeah, of course. So I am from Tallahassee, Florida, which if you don't know, Florida is shaped like this, and it's kind of they call it the armpit, but it's really nice, I promise you. The main thing about Tallahassee is that Florida State University is there, so I grew up a Seminoles fan, not having the best college football season at the moment. But yeah, I'd say a big part of my childhood was a high school I went to. I went to a school called North Florida Christian School, and it was a small school. I graduated only among 35 other seniors, so definitely a unique experience. But other than that, yeah, I've been playing baseball forever, so that occupied most of my free time on weekends and whatnot. But I love to go back to Tallahassee whenever I can and visit friends and stuff. So
I have to ask, we're going to get a little bit off topic, but how upset were you last season that Florida State did not get picked for the college football playoffs?
I actually had to go radio silent for 2 or 3 days. So we have a couple UF fans on the Emory baseball team last year that would not let go of it. So yeah, I kind of turned my phone off for a couple days, but you know, it's okay. Hopefully we'll start trending upwards eventually.
Sure, I'm definitely sure you got some heat for that. So let's talk a little bit about you in high school in baseball. I'm going to just name off a little bit of what you did because there's so much to do. So you were on multiple all-tournament teams, multiple preseason All-America teams, and you were class valedictorian. So how in the world do you manage that? And I'm sure, especially here too, but how do you manage being a student and an athlete and all that comes with it?
Yeah, you know, I think it really starts with, I mean, it's cliche to say time management is key, but it's all one big balancing game. You know, I think it's important to really know where your priorities lie. Luckily, my parents always pushed academics first before anything else. I'd come home from school, they'd make sure I do all of my homework, any studying and whatnot, and they were always super helpful with that before I could go outside, play, and go do other baseball stuff. So, I don't know. I mean, as far as managing school and baseball at the same time, like I said, big balancing act, knowing where your priorities lie and just being intentional with what you do. You know, don't try to procrastinate as little as possible, and just have a set things of tasks you want to do each day and go at each of them with 100%.
How good was it too, especially being in Florida? You know, kids in the Northeast can't play baseball year round. You probably were able to play way longer. How does that affect kind of your mentality, especially at that age?
Yeah, a big focus on playing baseball growing up in Florida is you have to be healthy year round. Like a lot of the Northeast kids, they only play, you know, essentially a summer season and a fall season whenever it's not too cold. But in Florida, especially in Tallahassee, I'm blessed with like even winters, it's like 60 to 70 degrees outside, which is a blessing and a curse because it is a lot of baseball, as you can imagine. But no, I mean, just being ready to go all the time, and it becomes a factor in your daily life. It's not, you know, it all plays into the time management piece of it. But yeah, growing up with those temperatures in Florida not only really helped me prepare for coming up to Emory, because I know a lot of people from the Northeast can come down here and be shocked by the humidity and whatnot. But yeah, no, that's about it.
That humidity is no joke. So we talked about Florida State, so let's get into professional sports a little bit. Marlins, Rays.
So I'm actually not a fan of any Florida MLB teams. The Braves are actually the closest team to Tallahassee. And plus, the Rays and Marlins aren't exactly the best. Sorry if there are any fans of those teams out there. But no, growing up, I was a Braves fan. And being completely honest, I didn't watch too much professional baseball. It was just more college baseball. And like I said, Florida State has always been a huge part of my life growing up, all of their sports teams. So
how was that experience, obviously, now that you're in college and seeing, but you know, were you going to college baseball games, going to Florida State games, and did that kind of prepare you a little bit for this?
Yeah, I really did grow up around Florida State University. My parents would take me to a lot of a lot of their sports games, not even just baseball. We'd go to a lot of basketball games and whatnot. And the entire city of Tallahassee kind of rallies around Florida State University. So we did win a national championship in 2013 for football, which was an amazing moment. I could tell you exactly where I was. It's one of those sports moments you can tell you exactly where you were when you watch it happen. But no, yeah, I grew up around Florida State, and just baseball in Florida, especially. I know a lot of the big three states that people talk about for like youth sports tend to be Florida, Texas, and California. So being lucky enough to be in a place where everyone around you is really good. So you're always being pushed developmentally. So yeah, growing up in Florida is a blessing, and I love that I'm so close to home here. So
You've talked a lot about your parents, so I want to ask, like, I'm sure that's probably a big thing for you, and having that support and your community around you.
yeah, my parents, so their names are Holly and Tolga. My dad he's Turkish, so he's from Turkey. My mom grew up in Panama City Beach, Florida, and I actually ended up transferring to her alma mater for my junior college, which we'll get into in a moment. But they have been easily the most important key players in my career. They have sacrificed everything, whether it's time, money, resources, just for a chance for me to succeed. So, yeah, I hopefully one day will be able to give back to them just as much, if not more, than they've given to me.
Awesome. What is that Turkish culture like? Are you involved in that, especially with your dad being from there?
I'm not as involved as I should be, which is I don't speak Turkish at all. I really should get on that. But no, I think especially in the way that he parented me. It's compared to the United States, I would say they're very disciplined, very disciplined culture. So my dad was always on my tail about things, and it was good. It was good for me. I needed that, and it kind of instills that sense of stubbornness in me, but it's a good stubbornness. Like I can't do this until I get this done, and I always pushing myself to be better at things. So it was not a very relaxing childhood, but it was all in good means. My parents have been great to me.
So let's talk a little bit, going back to your high school baseball days, and you talked about being in a place where you remember where you were. So what's the biggest memory you have from high school? Baseball-wise, it doesn't have to be sport-related.
So in high school, I'll talk about a separate experience from my high school. I played for a travel team called the Orlando Scorpions growing up, and we were always ranked like relatively high. It was a really good team. I honestly had kind of imposter syndrome being on that team because I was surrounded by such good players, a lot of Power 5 commits. Everyone went to like UF or Florida State. But with that team, we made a run. There's a big baseball tournament when you're 17 years old in the fall called Jupiter. It's the World Wood Bat Association put on a perfect game, and we made it to the Final Four of that tournament. I couldn't tell you how many teams that tournament starts with, probably around 200 or so, but we ended up making it to the Final Four. And just being able to share that moment with those guys, a lot of the guys that I grew up with, just playing in that organization was amazing. So, yeah, that's probably one of the sports highlights of my high school career. Yeah.
Going back to your community, you had done like close to 200 plus hours of community service. I want to hear a little bit more about those experiences and especially what it taught you as a person.
Yeah. So growing up in Florida, some of you might know this, but in order to get a certain scholarship, you do have to complete a certain number of service hours, I think like 75 or 100 plus. But as you said, I got like around 200 of them. And I volunteered at a myriad of places, whether it was with the special education department at the elementary school I went to, or I spent a lot of time at the Miracle Field of Tallahassee, which they essentially bring out physically or developmentally disabled children, and we get to play all sorts of sports with them, whether kickball, tennis ball, baseball, softball, stuff like that. And it's doing stuff like that, volunteering at places like that, like food banks and elementary schools and Miracle Field, really gives you a different perspective. It kind of takes you out of your shoes for a moment, and you get to see how other people live their life and constantly overcome, the challenges that they're faced with daily. So I would encourage people to definitely get out into your community and do as much volunteer work as you can. Like I said, it gives a new perspective on things and really can change your worldview, make you a lot less self-centered of a person. So.
All right, let's get into what we're here for. So I want to hear a little bit more about your recruiting process to Tulane, but also, one, you were going through COVID at that time. Two, you had surgery in 2019, so there was like challenge after challenge to get to where you were.
Yeah, so the way that my whole recruiting timeline went is in college baseball, a big summer for you in high school is your like high school sophomore summer going to your junior year. And that was the summer that I fractured my elbow. It was just an injury from overuse. I ended up getting 2 screws in it, and the recovery process took a while, but I got that really important recruiting summer taken away from me. So going into my junior year of high school, I knew that I really had to perform in order to get, to a Division I school like I wanted to. But luckily, playing on that Orlando Scorpions travel team, one of the coaches from Tulane, he saw our roster and saw that everyone was committed to Power 5 schools, and he goes, it's like, why is this Blake kid not committed anywhere? So they watched a couple games of mine over live stream, like you said, because of COVID, and I played well, and I was offered a preferred walk-on spot at Tulane. And yeah, I'm not going to say I jumped the gun, but I was very enticed by it. Obviously, the opportunity to play Division I baseball at a really good academic school like Tulane that's very similar to Emory in multiple areas. I jumped on it and committed. After high school, I headed to the lovely city of New Orleans.
Let's go back. We'll talk about mental health, how you deal with COVID, rehabbing an injury, all of that.
Yeah, so it was tough. Like I said, broke my elbow essentially my sophomore year, but I was really able to tap into the community that I had around me, whether it was high school teammates, coaches, parents, and just realizing that everyone's rooting for you, everyone's cheering for you, no one's against you, and it tends to get competitive, but at the same time, you're all on the same team. So luckily enough, I had, like I said, a great support system, people around me, pushing me not only to recover, but to just go beyond that and really exceed my goals. And a big thing for me, especially in the mental health aspect of it, was knowing that there is an end goal and there is, a light at the end of the tunnel. You'll get caught up in the daily activities of rehabbing and, getting down on yourself when you're sitting there watching practice instead of participating in it. But just knowing that there is an end goal and there is a light at the end of the tunnel it's a really big realization for me. As far as COVID and injuries, it's tough, especially growing up and being such a developmental part of like high school at that time. But I was able to come out on the other side okay of it, definitely with my support system. So
awesome. So fall of 2021, you're at Tulane. The next semester, you're somewhere new. I can't even imagine, like, my transition from high school to college was hard enough, but going from one college to another in one semester must have been really, really hard, especially, if your dream is playing Division I baseball and having to leave that scene. What was that?
Yeah, it was tough. So, to give a little insight to the whole Tulane thing, I essentially played my fall 2021 semester there, and I was ultimately cut from the team right after Thanksgiving break, so around November 30th, December 1st, something like that. And it was because of my status as a preferred walk-on. I wasn't on any sort of athletic scholarship, so I was one of the easier guys to cut. There were 4 of us, and we ended up all getting cut. I decided ultimately that I wanted to keep playing baseball. And so I immediately, the next day after getting cut, it was a really dark day in my life. But like I said, my parents, I called them for, I think, 5 or 6 hours, just telling them what the next steps will be, what we're going to do. But I entered the transfer portal immediately. And that was a very cool process. It makes you feel wanted. a lot of teams are reaching out to you, which is really cool. And I ultimately decided to go to, like I said, my mom's alma mater, which is Gulf Coast State College. So it was tough, being at Tulane for that last month of school where I'm not on the team anymore, but I'm still living with a bunch of baseball guys. It was unique, but they were all very supportive. They were always asking me, what am I going to do? Am I going to keep playing? Am I going to stay at Tulane? They were very supportive of me, which I'm super thankful for. But yeah, I ended up at Gulf Coast State College the next semester. So that my entire winter break was not as glorious as it could have been, going home and relaxing. It was more move out of Tulane immediately after moving in and then get ready to move all my stuff to Panama City Beach, Florida. So it went well, though.
That's so amazing that you got out of that darkness, because I'm sure like that news that quick and just around a time that's usually filled with so much happiness and joy, like that had to be so hard, and it's so amazing that you got yourself out of that.
Yeah, it was really tough in the moment, but my parents encouraged me to flip it on its head. the whole saying is when one door closes, another door opens. So I think immediately after I was cut, the next weekend I drove over and we toured some colleges in Florida. And we made an experience out of it. We weren't going to sit there and sulk like I could have. I wanted to. Trust me, sit there and be sad for myself, but that's not the type of person I am, not the type of person my parents raised me to be. So luckily I took action on it and ended up at Gulf Coast State in January. So
What was your mom's first reaction when she heard you were going to be at her alma mater?
she was very happy because that was a place that she credits a lot of her success and her livelihood too, because she grew up in Panama City Beach, Florida, and she stayed in town and then ultimately transferred to Florida State, where she got her degree. So she was ecstatic that I was going to go spend some time in her hometown, Panama City, and not only that, but also go to the same school that I think we actually shared one professor. We did share, yeah, from her time to my time, it was the same professor. So that was really cool.
You jump right in to baseball at junior college. What was kind of the biggest difference you noticed right away between Tulane and Gulf Coast?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously Tulane, it was Division I and it was very cutthroat, to say the least. That's a friendly way to put it. We would be, our first practice of the year was at 5:30 a.m. on a Monday because Hurricane Ida kind of knocked us out for 2 months of school, which was another part of my lovely first semester experience at Tulane. But no, it's different not only in the facilities. Obviously, Tulane's Division I, and Gulf Coast is NJCAA D1, so JUCO Division I. But the people were very different at the two schools. Tulane, there was among the returners, they were all really good, and they could have that sense of complacency because they knew that they had a roster spot and had a secured spot on the team. But at Gulf Coast it was a lot of guys who had been cut from Division I or other teams, a lot of guys who really had a fire lit under them to really go get something and go get that opportunity to play at a 4-year school. So that was a big difference, just the demeanors and attitudes of people. Junior college baseball was not as glorious as Tulane would have been or as Emory is right now, facility-wise, and coach and teammate relationships. But at the same time, it's an experience that I wouldn't trade for the world because it instilled a lot of discipline in me, and I knew that it was a good segue into where I'd be going with my 4-year college career.
So it sounded like the mentality was play baseball no matter what.
Yeah, it was a very gritty experience, to say the least, at Gulf Coast State College. It was kind of wake up, baseball or lift class, and then baseball or lift in the afternoon, and then come home. So I lived in a house with 5 other guys. It was a 3-bed, 3-bath house. We had roommates and everything, and we did our best to keep it clean. But no, it was a short-lived time at Gulf Coast State College. But before every season, I text that coach, wish him good luck. I still have all those relationships there because it was such a monumental place in getting me to where I am now.
So let's talk about recruiting now from Gulf Coast to Emory.
Yeah, so this kind of goes back to high school a little bit. When I made my decision to go to Tulane, the first school that I called to let know that I was going to Tulane was actually the head coaches at Emory. So Coach Twardowski, who retired, great guy, I went to a prospect camp. The first camp I went to after I broke my elbow was an Emory University prospect camp. And I played well, and the coaches, toured everyone around, and they, displayed interest in me, got their phone numbers and everything, which was great. And I stayed in touch with them all the way until I ultimately decided to go to Tulane. So it was a tough phone call, calling all the coaches at Emory saying, hey, I'm going to Tulane and not here. But little did I know I could just text Coach T one day and be like, hey, I'm at this junior college. I'm looking for a 4-year school. Is Emory open to, having another catcher? And luckily, I think Coach T responded within 5 minutes. He was like, yeah, absolutely. Apply to the transfer student process. We'll help usher you along. And yeah, it was kind of a match made in heaven. I think from me texting him initially to me submitting my transfer application, I think it took 3 days. And yeah, no, it worked out extremely well. And that is the importance of having a, coach network. But no, I was able to text him right away, and he was like, yes, please come to Emory. We could use a catcher. Your test scores and your performance, everything aligns with what we look for in a prospective student athlete. So Yeah, match made in heaven. It was good.
So that's all it took was one text message.
One text, yeah. I sent him some stats. I said, hey, I'm at this junior college. I know that Coach T and Coach Bobby Perez, our current head coach, I want to say they both went to junior colleges themselves. So hopefully they saw some of themselves within me. And they knew that, I had it in me to come compete at Emory University. So
obviously there was an interest in Emory originally, and then you end up coming here anyway. So what kind of drew you in maybe the first time around and then coming back as a transfer?
Yeah, so I'll tell a funny story. Out of high school, I applied to Emory as a regular student. Just my parents encouraged me to apply to other places than Tulane. I knew I was going to Tulane, but they're like, just in case, apply to Florida State, all these Florida schools, Emory. I actually got denied by Emory out of high school, which was funny. But as far as coming back, the proximity to home for me is a big one. Atlanta is very close to Tallahassee. It's like a 4.5-hour drive. But just the opportunity to balance baseball and academics at the level that you can here, it's very important. I personally think that academics and, secondary education like college is not as valued as it should be in Florida, especially as it is in the Northeast. You have all these college counselors. They get you all these really good Ivy League schools. But in Florida, I think the general consensus is go to state school and then live your life. So I kind of wanted to break out of that whole stigma rotation and get into a very good academic school. And if baseball was going to be the means that I do that through, then so be it. So Emory is a perfect match, baseball-wise, culture-wise, location-wise, academics-wise. It was perfect. So I'm super grateful and lucky that I ended up here.
How do you balance all of that? Because somebody that's not in athletics might not realize the schedule that you guys have.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say a typical schedule for us, at least for me, as a senior, I will wake up, breakfast, whatnot, and then classes, probably 2 classes for a total of 3-ish hours. And then depending on the day, we are either practicing for 3 to 4 hours, or it's a lift, and then we roll right into a shorter practice. So yeah, it's a grueling schedule. And then, after all the baseball stuff, we come home and immediately are sitting down, studying, doing schoolwork, getting ready for the next day. So it's tough, but it all goes back to what I was talking about, prioritizing, time management and being intentional. My big thing is being intentional with your time. It's so easy to get trapped in a black hole on your phone, just sitting down, laying in bed, doing nothing, napping. But if you really are, can get stuff out of the way for the next day and for the remainder of the week, it helps so much. So yeah, just prioritizing. I live by my to-do list. It's probably not the best way to live. I should probably mix in some more spur of the moment type things, but I swear by my to-do list and my Google Calendar that really help me organize my week, any assignments, any tasks that I might have. So yeah.
They help.
Yes, they help. I live by it, like I said.
So let's get into your time here now. So last year was probably your best season at Emory. You were named to the D3Baseball.com All-Region team, All-UA First Team, All-UA All-Academic. That's a mouthful. So, you've been through all of this stuff, and you just talked about it, but then you come here and you're like, hey guys, I'm going to kick butt. Yeah,
like Emory, and last season was really just a testament to what I was talking about earlier in terms of there's going to be an end goal, and it's all going to work out in the end. Last year was a great year. It was really a culmination of all the, the tough experiences that I had at Tulane, the very, the determination that I took on and the fire that was lit under me at Gulf Coast State to really succeed and move on to a 4-year school. And luckily I was able to reap the benefits, reap what I sow here at Emory and last year. So hopefully carry it over to next spring as well. But I'm surrounded by great people here that really allow me to have the opportunity to succeed, whether it's teammates, coaches, professors, everything.
How do you come in as a junior, right, or a sophomore?
True sophomore, yeah. Did 1 semester at Tulane, 1 semester at Gulf Coast, and then here as a sophomore.
Okay, so how do you come in and say, you know what, I'm not the bottom of the rung here. How do I build myself into a leader without maybe being here for as long as maybe a true freshman has?
Yeah, no, at first it was tough, and I know a lot of guys on the team will attest to this. When I first got here my sophomore year, I was, as Coach T said, very stoic. I didn't want to talk. I was kind of stuck in my old Tulane Gulf Coast ways, but the guys really encouraged me, to come out of my shell. And I think by winter break, I was in full-blown me mode. People now will probably recognize me as a lot more outgoing and more of a leader than I was in my first semester here. So yeah, it took a while for me to get comfortable around the guys and around the coaches, but once you kind of establish those relationships with your teammates and with everyone, you feel a lot safer, displaying your true self. So yeah, I don't know. It was just, and I picked up a lot of leadership traits, not only from high school, but from Gulf Coast as well. So just realizing that they translate over. It's a new audience of people, but it's the same stuff. So yeah.
Awesome. We talked about the college football moment. You don't forget where you are. We talked about the high school travel ball. What's been that moment here?
I remember basically every walk-off win that we've ever had. Just getting to run out onto the field and mob your teammate that just got the winning hit. That's always something. But I'd say winning the UAA my sophomore year was definitely that moment. It was so fun running out to left field. We had the banner, just grouping up for the team picture. I think my face hurt from smiling so much that entire day. Obviously, baseball on our own, we had our own little week of celebration after that. But I'd say that is the moment. Winning, I can't remember who we played last to win it. It might have been Brandeis. We were at home, but it was amazing. That was one of the most memorable experiences for me, was winning the UAA championship my sophomore year here.
Well, since you mentioned Brandeis, we have to talk about your sophomore season, scoring like 30 runs a game, and like my friends are texting me like, "Hey, MLB's posting about Emory right now." Like, what was that moment like?
Yeah, I don't know what they put in the hotel breakfast that morning, but it was obviously something good, because that was definitely one of our better days in recent history that I can remember. I think we played a doubleheader and we scored, I want to say 31 runs in both games. And it was a lot of earned runs as well. Brandeis was not giving up any sort of errors or letting us have free runs. I think we were just hitting our way into that. So yeah, that was a great day. I want to say a lot of people had multi-home run games. But no, that was a very, very fun series to play in. Obviously, when everyone is just playing like that and you're firing on all cylinders, it's the best, most memorable time with your teammates. I think a couple of our pitchers got at bats towards the end of the game, so that was also a very memorable experience. But yeah, that was a fun couple games.
So shout out to the hotel in Massachusetts for the hotel breakfast that morning. You mentioned Coach T, and I just want to talk a little bit about your experience with him. He's just a fantastic person, a fantastic coach, 25 plus years of experience, and you've got to see a lot of it.
Yeah, you learn about all these leadership types and all the classes that you take here, whether it's a servant leader, charismatic leader. I think he is every single one combined. My first impression of him was just how much emphasis and focus that he puts on family, whether it's your own personal family or just the entire baseball team as a family. He really emphasizes that is the community around you is the most important thing. Regardless of play, you can win, lose 100 games, but it is having those people around you, that support system. That was something he always hit on, which I loved. And as far as the baseball aspect of it, easily one of the most knowledgeable people. Obviously, he's been around it for a long time, so just the experience that he could pass on to us in all facets of the game. We would drill down base running for hours. Oh my goodness. But at the same time, we ended up being one of the better base running teams in the nation. So in the moment, it's tough. He's really throwing a lot at you, and his expectations are really high. But at the same time, you have to remember that he's family. So at the end of the day, he just wants us to succeed. No hard feelings, whatever. It's just if you play bad or you lose a game, it is immediately tossed away the next day, and you're right back at it. So yeah, Coach T was amazing, and luckily he's been around, so it's good.
I was down there for that last game against Brandeis, and I think we all knew that was going to be his final game, and even it was an extra inning loss, and even then it didn't matter. Like, there was still so much love from all of you guys to him, and it was a very beautiful moment.
It was tough. Last year we had heard rumors that it was going to be his last year, but I think none of us really knew that was going to be his last game until pregame that day. I think he told us, "Hey guys, this is it." He's like, "No pressure. You don't go, don't go crazy trying to win this game for me." But it was a very emotional game. But yeah, no, just the legacy that he not only started but also left at Emory, is displayed through our current team, the amount of alumni that come to our alumni weekend, which is coming up next weekend, which will be very fun, and just the character that has been instilled not only in this program but just the attention that he gives to us honoring Doc Parton and I think Clyde Parton and Chapel Field at Emory University. That's a big tenet of our our first couple weeks here on the Emory baseball team, just recognizing and admiring those who came before us. So Coach T was awesome. Yeah, love him.
He was great. What are you most looking forward to this season?
It's bittersweet. Obviously it's senior season, like yay, senior season, but at the same time, like, oh, last time playing. Like, I don't plan on playing professional baseball afterwards, so this will be it for me. But yeah, it's tough, but I'm trying to live in the moment, and just do what we can now, not only in raising up the younger guys on the team to be the leaders for the next couple of years, but also we do our best to hold each other accountable. And I think the culture that Coach T has instilled in this team is it's a two-way street. Us, the senior leaders, can we can not yell at, but we can help freshmen out and instruct them and do certain things. But at the same time, if they see something that we should be doing better as seniors, they have full reign to tell us that and encourage us to be better. So the culture here is great, and we really want to keep drilling down on that. So I'm looking forward to finding ways that we help build this team's culture for this year and next. But no, we've got a really good squad for the upcoming year, and I'm also obviously looking forward to the actual baseball part of it. But the things that I'll miss will be traveling with the team meals, just spending time in the locker room, hanging out, talking. It'll be bittersweet, but we're only in the fall, so that's a tear to be shed later. Not too worried about that right now.
How do you prepare, though? You've been playing this sport now for probably the past 15 years of your life. How do you prepare for any athlete that maybe isn't going professional after this to, like, this is it?
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks. But just knowing that you had the opportunity to play this sport for the past 15 years, the people that you met along the way, whether teammates, coaches, friends. I mean, the guys at Emory, these are my friends for life. They will be they will be groomsmen. One of them will probably be my best man. I mean, these are like guys that you will spend the rest of your life calling, checking in on, and I know that they'll be the first guys to come help me at the drop of a penny. If anything happened, they would do that. So it's tough, but I think the biggest thing is to just be grateful that you were able to play this game as long as possible, and all the relationships and everything that you developed out of it. They're not short-term things, they're long-term things. So just be grateful. That's my whole thing. It'll be tough, obviously, playing my last game and doing the proverbial hanging up my cleats, but no, just looking back in hindsight, it can't be. I have no regrets for the way that I lived my college career in baseball and everything. So
Awesome. It's a little early. I know we're only in the fall, but do we have any post-graduation plans?
yeah, so this past summer I was in Philadelphia at PNC Bank working as a asset management intern, and I just signed a return offer a couple weeks ago to go back to Philadelphia. So yeah, I'll be a full-time asset management analyst for PNC Bank in Philadelphia, which is fun. Yeah, it's definitely a change of pace from Tallahassee, Florida. Tallahassee is one of those cities that you kind of have to drive everywhere, and it's a minimum 10-15 minute drive because we kind of live way back in the woods. But no, it'll be fun. I loved my summer there, and I'll be there for hopefully a couple of years in Philly, hopefully 3 to 5 years. So no, that's the post-grad plans. But there's a big gap in between the end of baseball and hopefully June, and then my start date in August. So I've never left the country. My mom and I are hopefully trying to plan some sort of trip to either Europe or some sort of island, just to get away during those 2 or 3 months before I go into corporate world. But no, it'll be good.
Are you prepared for Philadelphia cold? That's going to be an experience.
I've really only been there during the summer, which is comparable to Atlanta summers, I guess. A lot of big buildings, not too much wind, so it's pretty hot. But yeah, that'll be a big. I need to invest in a nice jacket because growing up in Florida, you're on January 1st, 70 degrees outside, so you're like, oh, I can wear shorts today. But in Philly, yeah, I'll need to kind of do a wardrobe overhaul. But that's a good thing for me to do later. But yeah, I don't know. At least I'm not playing baseball in the Philly winter. That's the good part because my hands would be broken.
So wrapping it up here, I want to kind of get your biggest takeaway from all of your experience and maybe some advice that you would have to somebody going through a similar thing.
My biggest takeaway from everything, like my entire experience at Tulane to Gulf Coast to Emory, gosh, I don't know. I think it all goes back to what I said about being intentional. You know, you have this internal dialogue that tells you, like, when I got cut from Tulane, I was like, maybe I should just stay here as a student. But inside, I knew that I wanted to keep playing baseball, and I knew that baseball could be something that gets me into a better school down the line, like Emory. So I acted on it. You know, I encourage you to don't be ashamed to act on certain things because of how you think it might look to others. Be intentional with the way you do things, whether it's just waking up in the morning and making your bed. Be the best bed maker in the world that day. I know it sounds weird, but it's the truth. Be very intentional with everything that you do. Don't see relationships and stuff as transactional, but see them as relationships. See them as what they are. Don't look at people and schools and things as ways to, what am I going to get out of this? Be in the moment and, you know, cherish the things that you're doing with other people, the time that you spend with them, even if it's just going to get food with teammates. Don't be there for the food. Be there for the fellowship and community. So, yeah, that would be my advice: is be intentional, be present, and don't see things as transactions. See it. It's all our first time living life, so we're all going through all the same things that anyone in the world could be going through at any given moment. So, yeah, I think that's my advice.
So toss out the to-do list and do more spur of the moment things.
Yes. Yeah. That would do it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us for episode 2 of the podcast. It's been really fun. Yeah, thank you so much.
Of course. Yeah, loved it.